A weapons prequel will work only if the movie deepens the wound left by weapons instead of diagnosing the disease with overexplained lore. The original movie left a lot of mysteries on purpose, yet one character went a step ahead and possibly stayed in your head days on end. Of course, I'm talking about Aunt Gladys. It was her nefarious and diabolical aura and charm that led to now that we have a prequel project with a working title in active development. As of early April 2026, Cregger has confirmed that a Gladys-focused prequel is on the way, and also that he's had the idea ready since before the original film was even released. He also has a co-writer now, Zach Shields. But there's a lot more that we know about the upcoming movie, and also a lot that hasn't been confirmed yet. And in this video, we're going to explore everything we know about the upcoming Weapons prequel. So, without further ado, let's begin, shall we?
Hey, yo, you good? Jesus Christ, bro! Hey, you're off me, bro! Get the
Original film, Legacy. Weapons became one of those rare studio horror hits that pulled in mainstream audiences and kept horror fans chatty for months. I remember going for the first Conjuring movie some 13 years ago without a lot of expectations, but what I felt at the theater was a surreal experience, and I kid you not, watching Weapons felt exactly the same. The basic plot of Weapons is that 17 kids from the same class rise from bed at exactly 2:17 a.m., walk out and vanish. Poof. Except this one student, Alex. And much like regular viewers, critics also bought what the film sold. The movie has an awesome score of 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the consensus praises it because of how confident it is as a mystery horror. The movie's structure also did fairly well, as it showed multiple character viewpoints, answering the question of how does a town react? I think A House of Dynamite, starring Rebecca Ferguson and Idris Elba, directed by Oscar-winning director Catherine Bigelow, also had a similar structure, but it didn't even come close to how well Weapons did it. And then there's the tone of the movie, one that's filled with horror as well as humor, the dark kind. And then there's Aunt Gladys, played exceptionally well by Amy Madigan, who absolutely stole scenes and became an entry in my esteemed list of most hate-worthy female villains, a list that includes the likes of Bellatrix Lestrange, Pamela Voorhees, Cersei Lannister, and such. For her performance, Miss Madigan won Best Supporting Actress at the 2026 Oscars. In fact, Weapons and Sinners did pretty well at the Oscars, which shows a shift in how horror movies are viewed by critics and honorary organizations. One thing that makes the movie especially beautiful as well as tragic is the fact the film's core grief isn't pretend. Writer and director Zach Cregger wrote the script after the death of his close friend and collaborator Trevor Moore, and he's been candid that the story contains personal elements he doesn't want to over-explain for viewers. So, the original came from a specific place, and I'm not sure if that will get factored into the prequel movie. Prequel plot speculation. I'm sure you're not surprised that there are no official plot details yet. I mean, it's fairly early to expect any. Having said that, we're not totally in the dark. We have credible pointers from interviews, material that was removed from the first movie, and the way that the original film seeded some very crucial questions without actually answering any of them. In all probability, the movie will dive deep into Aunt Gladys' origin story and how she came to Maybrook and what she truly is. Now, there was once a Gladys-centric piece in the original movie, as in there was this entire chapter in the planned structure that was set in the final act, with young Alex as her unwilling assistant while she sought a magical cure for an unspecified condition. Cregger described a sequence that would jump back in time to where Gladys was before she arrived at the family home, then move up to her airport pickup. Needless to say, some people out there are supposing that that deleted chapter will expand and become the prequel story. However, Cregger has vehemently denied that idea. In an Entertainment Weekly interview around the home release, he said that the prequel idea isn't based on the chapter that was removed from the final product. At best, we can conclude that Cregger wrote the material, removed it because it weakened the movie, and the prequel will likely explore related territory, while heavily expanding the lore and exploring more fields of fear. If you ask me, prequel could cover either or all of these three things. First, Gladys appears to use witchcraft or ritual magic and personal objects to control people people, and she can drain life force from the children she abducts in order to restore her own health. So we could learn how she learned to do that. Then she's got a mysterious illness or condition. Maybe it was a curse that she suffered at some point. Or maybe Gladys is not really a human who uses witchcraft to avoid dying from an incurable condition. Maybe, just maybe, she's an immortal non-human force doing an approximate imitation of a person. I mean, she describes her disease as consumption, which was the term for TB back in the day. I'm talking about the 1800s. Why would she use such archaic vocabulary? Yeah? So, all of these questions could be answered in the prequel. But my question is, will it be an origin story or a character study? Yeah, they sound similar, but you might be missing an important distinction. You see, an origin story can mean explaining the mechanics. For instance, something like Prometheus, where the story went all in on explaining the origins of the xenomorph mythos, the engineers, black goo, and all that messy biology. Secondly, a prequel story or character study could mean following a person while still keeping some mystery intact. Let's say the whole Vito Corleone part from Godfather Part 2. Here, the movie showed how Vito amassed power and became who he became. Now, applying this to weapons would tell us that the original film's power came partly from what it did not explain. And I'm sure, like me, you must also be thinking if more explanation would help elevate the weapon's experience or ruin it. Take John Carpenter's The Thing, for instance. I think the film works so well only because we don't know where that shape-shifting alien came from. But let's get past that and stay optimistic about the upcoming prequel. Cast details. As of April 2026, or when this video was being made, no cast has been officially announced for Gladys. That said, it's most likely that Amy Madigan will reprise her role, because the prequel is happening only because of how positively audiences responded to her performance, and because she's openly expressed interest in returning if the timing and business pieces line up. But you may very well ask, if it's a prequel, do they cast a younger actress? Well, there's no confirmation, but since Amy did such a wonderful job with her character, it's unlikely that the people behind the scenes would want to risk getting someone else for the role. What if a younger actress can't pull off what Amy did? Secondly, people have resonated with Amy and would want her back. But there is a possibility that the story could take place much earlier in Gladys's life, which opens the door to a younger performer, with Madigan perhaps serving as a framing device. But yeah, the rest of the original ensemble is unlikely to return in any major way, because a Gladys origin prequel doesn't need the core Maybrook viewpoints like teachers, parents, cops, etc. Production journey and behind the scenes. To understand why Gladys' story became a real project, you have to look at how weapons got made and how fast Hollywood moved once the original performed well. Cregger's script went up for sale in January 2023 and triggered an aggressive bidding war. New Line ultimately secured it for $38 million, and from that moment onwards, everything got super fast-tracked. Cregger sent it out early in the morning, and Michael DeLuca reportedly called by 8 a.m. to close, with the exchange done in under 90 minutes. The auction had fallout too. Jordan Peele's company, Monkey Paw Productions, was part of the bidding via Universal, and after losing, Peele reportedly fired longtime managers, one of whom also represented Cregger. Then, the 2023 labor disputes delayed production and caused major cast changes. Pedro Pascal was originally set to star, but schedule issues after the delay led to recasting, and Josh Brolin took over the role. Although I love what Josh Brolin did, I'm certainly intrigued about what Pascal would have done with the role, given his recent experience in horror thanks to Last of Us. Principal photography later took place in the Atlanta area from May to July 2024, with the Maybrook Elementary location in Tucker, Georgia. Interestingly, test screenings influenced the final cut. The movie originally ended on a silent shot, but a narrator voiceover was added after negative reactions at a test screening. Now, Cregger confirmed that he had the prequel idea in his pocket much before the movie came out, and he has said that he's been in talks with Warner Brothers about it. Weapons director says that prequels starring Amy Madigan's Aunt Gladys is real. Sometime in the middle of August 2025, reports said that Warner Brothers and New Line were in talks for a prequel around the character's origins after the film's release momentum became obvious. By April 1st, 2026, Zach Shields had been enlisted to co-write the screenplay with Cregger for Warner Brothers New Line, with Gladys as the working title. Cregger told EW, "I have the story in my head," but also noted that it was still very early. Release outlook. No release date has been decided for Gladys as of yet. Everyone, including mainstream outlets, is saying that the movie is quote-unquote in development, which usually means script work, deal memos, and a lot of calendar stuff. We can, however, make a realistic projection based on what's confirmed. So, as of April 2026, the project had writers attached and a working title, but no cast announcements and no production start. Secondly, Cregger's Resident Evil film is set to be released on September 18, 2026, which likely takes priority for his directing time. So, unless another director takes the reins while Cregger stays as writer-producer, which is again not entirely confirmed, a theatrical Gladys release in early 2028 seems plausible. That's not an official timeline, of course. It's more of a common-sense-based conclusion of development stages, plus a packed slate for Cregger. But then again, Weapons itself was rushed to the finish line, and that too without sacrificing the quality. It was once dated for January 2026, then got rescheduled to August 8, 2025 after strong test screening reception. This only means that Warner Brothers' New Line will move quickly when they smell some momentum. If they believe that Gladys can be a repeat event, they won't drag their feet out of habit and maybe only out of logistics. So yeah, that's where we are right now. Gladys is pretty much happening. It's in motion at Warner Brothers' New Line. Cregger and Zach Shields are on the script, and Amy Madigan most likely remains the obvious gravitational force behind all of this. The big creative question, and the one I hope they don't fumble with, is how to give us more Gladys without exacerbating her into a doctoral thesis of lore. No one wants that. Cregger already proved that he very well understands the danger that comes with overexplanation when he cut a chapter to keep her scary. If the prequel can balance origin with restraint, we might get a rare thing in the form of a horror expansion that deepens the wound instead of diagnosing it away. So, yep, that was all for this one, guys. And if you liked the video, well, please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Those two small clicks from you will help us tremendously in bringing you more of these awesome videos. Stay safe and have a good one.